How's it going, guys? My name is Damien. Welcome back. Bringing you my review of The Flash episode 20. Last night's episode was amazing, and there's a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. Careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet, but I imagine you have at this point. So there's tons to talk about, and I guess the most important thing to really hit on first is just the fact that the plot is speeding up. We're almost done for the season. There's only a few episodes left, 3 to be exact, and the season finale, I imagine, is going to be pretty amazing. Next week's episode looks really good as well, and I'm really curious to see how they're going to handle season 2, because with Eobard being the main villain for the most part in the latter half of the season, it's going to be interesting to see how they continue and transition into season 2. But what I like about this show the most, I think, is just its overall appreciation of the comics. A lot of the references that it makes, I really enjoy that type of stuff, because even if it's not something that is very obvious, if you really listen or you look it up, you can find these really cool Easter eggs and just things that are acknowledging the future. And I love when they do stuff like that, especially with a show like The Flash where time travel is involved, and with Eobard coming back in time, changing the timeline, things like that. So the Gideon reveal, I think, was one of my favorite moments of the episode, because one of the things that always happens with a lot of these shows is when you have a character that is quote-unquote the good guy, but he's masquerading, he's not really good, but his intentions seem like they are, but he's really the bad guy. You're always waiting for that moment, or you're hoping for that point where everyone else realizes just who this guy is. That was last night's episode, and even though they had already known, even though Caitlin was the last one to be convinced, and they were fully aware that he is the Reverse Flash, it was them finding out everything that we as the viewer, or as the viewers, would all want these characters to find out, right? So the Gideon reveal was really huge in that sense. Learning everything about Eobard, the future. Actually, Morena Baccarin, who is on Gotham, she's been in shows like Homeland and stuff like that. She is doing the voice, which is interesting because when I first was hearing her voice, I said this sounded familiar, but I couldn't quite place it because she's actually not credited on the show. So there you go if you didn't know that. But finding everything out that I've wanted Barry to know specifically for a long time is really, really great. And seeing little references like reading up on the actual newspaper article, seeing that he's married to Iris in the future, all of those types of things, really, really huge. Now, when it comes to this show, with the time travel, there's so much that can instantly change, because the timeline got altered in such a way that it becomes something that is unpredictable. So who knows what'll happen by them reading this newspaper article. For example, when they acknowledged, like Cisco acknowledging the suit looks different, but wait, is it because we saw the suit and we changed it? Is that why? So then it kind of just, it ripples out into multiple timelines, and it just gets really confusing in a lot of ways. So things like that I really, really appreciate, because it keeps you guessing, because you don't know what exactly is going to happen. A lot of things can change, of course, but I really, really enjoyed last night's episode. The new Flash suit, hopefully they change it in next season. I think that would be great. Next season or third season, that would be really nice. It's also, with the way Eobard answered the question from Cisco, it seems like he killed Nora Allen just because he was angry. And when future Barry went back in time with Eobard, he prevented young Barry's death, and hence Nora Allen died. So there's a lot, and I hope at some point they actually acknowledge that on Arrow, hopefully Oliver is able to say, like, well, you know, I just can't deal with this because this is just getting crazy. Because on Arrow, you always get that sense like it's a very human, realistic type of show. You know, it's set in that type of universe where things out of the ordinary don't really happen, even though some things have started to pop up in season 3. But that's kind of the perspective they've approached, whereas the Flash has always been from that approach of, yeah, superpowers, things are crazy, time travel, metahumans. You know, they're very different in that, right? So it'd be interesting to see if they acknowledge that and the way Oliver responds. So another huge moment throughout the entire episode last night, Eddie and Iris. I mean, realistically, they never had a chance. The writers will eventually put West Allen together. I mean, they are endgame, of course, but realistically, they were delayed because of the changes made by Eobard traveling back in time. Barry Allen being in a coma delayed Barry and Iris's relationship, whereas if that hadn't happened, they would have been together already. So that, because of that happening, Eddie Thawne was able to step in, and their relationship kind of blossomed out. But if it wasn't for Eobard traveling back in time, it just wouldn't have happened. And Eobard also mentions that Eddie Thawne is his insurance policy. So there's so much more to be revealed, but I really like the fact that him traveling back in time, I like they're acknowledging the changes made, things being so different. The show is just, this show right now, I mean, I don't know if you guys agree, but let me know in the comments section, is just way better than Arrow is right now. Just completely surprised by how good this show has been. And I think it's mainly due to the fact that the Flash has just always been a more popular character than Oliver, than the Arrow rather. So his comics have been around for much longer. There's a lot more to him. He's one of the founding members of the Justice League, so it kind of puts him in priority. He's like top tier, you know what I mean? So, and that, I guess so the comparison would be kind of unfair to a character like Green Arrow, but at the same time, the shows, the differences are just really starting to pop up. Like, I really enjoy The Flash a lot more than I enjoy Arrow right now. And Arrow is still a really good show, but there are things happening on The Flash that are just so out there, it's so over the top that you know you want to see the next season. So let me know what you guys think about that. Now, of course, last night was huge for Barry and Iris. If you guys are into the relationships on the show, Iris again finding out that Barry is the Flash. I mean, it had to happen at some point. They're going to get together. You know, I really enjoy them together. There's no doubt. I never really saw Snow Barry happening because the writers have already teased that Caitlin Snow's character is going to become Killer Frost at some point before Cisco becomes Vibe. So once they kind of go down that line, or once they head down that road, you realistically know there's no hope for Snow Barry, and Caitlin Snow and Ronnie Raymond are the characters that are linked anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that stuff. I hope to see some Firestorm, Killer Frost scenes at some point. All of that will be really good. So the episode, you know, again, tons to talk about. My favorite moment has been, hands down, Eobard Thawne. I think the last few episodes, ever since Barry decided that he was, or found out that he was the Reverse Flash, ever since then, I've really just enjoyed Eobard Thawne on screen. Everything that he's doing, he outsmarted them all, and their realization of how he planned it all out. I mean, everything that he's done has just been great. And it's going to be, what I wonder is, was he really prepared for them finding out at this point? Because with him traveling back, a lot of things are probably, he's just going with the flow, so things are he's gonna have to adapt to the changing events that continue to pop up in his life. So I don't know how much of the future he is aware of as far as Barry's backstory is concerned, because it'll get really confusing at certain points. So it'll be interesting to see what he really ends up handling, because in a perfect world for him, he would continue to pretend to be Harrison Wells and gain the trust of the Flash forever and ever until he is able to master the Speed Force, and then he would use him the way he wanted to. But now things have changed. He's going to have to do something else, and that, I guess, in part is where Gorilla Grodd comes in next week. So a really great episode, guys. You know, season 1 has been really amazing. It's going to be, I'm hoping he's back next season, but I imagine they're going to change it up. It's just generally how they do it with these types of shows, because you have to have a new villain coming on, kind of the way they do on Arrow, if this show follows the same type of pattern. But he has been the season 1 villain for the latter half, and the Rogues and everything like that, they've just been kind of guest starring randomly. He's always been the guy. So I imagine they're going to find some way to neutralize his Speed Force, because this show, the Reverse Flash, generally channels a negative Speed Force. And to get really into the comics here, I'm not going to do that, but Barry's on the Speed Force, the Reverse Flash is on the negative Speed Force, and the show hasn't really touched on that. So I imagine that they could say the Reverse Flash is pulling off of Barry's Speed Force, and they could find a way to neutralize his Speed Force, and thus removing him from the equation temporarily for season 2. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Let me know what you guys think. Really great episode, and I could talk about a lot more, the references that Gideon made, Cisco made. There's just so many comic book references and overall references that are just, yeah, I mean, it was a great episode. I can't wait till next week. So let me know what you guys think. Share your thoughts and opinions. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys tonight for Arrow. My name is Damien.